Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody to our Artist Talk with Karen Silve. We are so excited to have you all here. What a wonderful turnout for Karen today. I am going to very briefly introduce Karen, and then I am going to hand things over to her to give her talk, and then we will have time for questions at the end. I am very happy today to introduce Karen Silve as our featured artist of August. Karen, born in 1969 in Illinois, is based in Portland, Oregon, and in Provence, France. Surrounded by the scenic beauty of the Pacific Northwest and the countryside around her family home in Provence, Karen layers color and gesture into abstracted narratives, composites of visuals, sensations, and memories, which coalesce in a non-literal pictorial space. As a student, Karen studied under Alvin Sella, an Italian abstract painter and professor at the University of Alabama. However, it was as an emerging artist studying in Aix-en-Provence, France, at the Leo Marchutz School of Painting and Drawing that she found her true passion for painting, color, and nature, as well as the work sensibility that would power her through the years to come. Since those formative years, she has exhibited in museums, art centers, and galleries around the world. We are so grateful to Karen for taking the time to give an artist talk today. And without further ado, I will turn things over to Karen.
Okay. Um, Thank you, Rose. And thank you to the Leo Marchutz School for hosting this and to Alan and John. And it's great to be a part of this. Um, so I wanted to just start off by saying, as Rose said, this school really changed the path of my art career, of my life, I should say, because at this time is when I really fell in love with painting, which I was a painter. I was a designer. My BFA was in design as a major, and then painting and printmaking. So when I went to this school, I kept up with my painting throughout my design career, and ultimately went back into painting and made that my full-time job. Um, So I'm going to just start with, actually, I'm going to share a screen. Let me just, there we go. Okay. So I went to school there in 1992, and this is one of my paintings I did uh, at the school. As many of you know, if you're students there or past students there, we very often were just taken out to the fields and dropped off and found our place to connect with our subject or the nature in this particular instance, and um, and paint for a few hours, and then we were picked up and taken back to the school. Um, and so this was one of my paintings I did then. But the whole school and the way Alan and John taught, it was really the first time I witnessed and how to see color, how to see my subjects and how to see them in a different way through color. Um, we always had great conversations in the classroom, and this is really why I fell in love with painting, because it was such a integral part of just seeing, being a part of nature, and also working with color, mixing my palette, being out in nature, spending an hour just mixing the palette while I'm thinking about what's in front of me. And uh I mean I loved it. I felt like my palette should be the painting because I had spent so much time just focusing on the color. There was a painting that I saw in somebody's home there that that artist just really painted only specific marks of color just next to one another. It wasn't all muddy on the canvas. And I really loved that painting. And I always thought about that painting. And so I spent that extra time just mixing the colors because I wanted then to just be able to put the paint on the canvas and have the expressive marks there, while and also spend that hour just contemplating on the space um, that I was interacting with. Uh, Another favorite part of mine when during this process was after we were called back to clean up. We have 15 minutes. I I really loved after I cleaned up walking behind the bushes that I had focused so much on, like how that bush, that shade of green was against this other shade that was further behind, and how all of these colors interacted. But walking behind these objects that I studied, uh, I just, it was something that came back to me in years to come, and something I kind of focused on in some of my paintings years to come. So, with all of that said, I'll move forward. I want to discuss with you. A lot of people ask me, how do I approach my artwork as an abstract painter? So I'm just going to go through some pivotal points in my art career and share with you how some of these different um, bodies of work, how I approach them and what I gain from them. So, with that said, I'll just kind of jump in. Of course, as I mentioned, I was a designer, so I did spend quite a few years working as a designer. But I kept up with my painting, and one of the bodies of work I did was this cellist series. And these cellists, I one of the things also in Aix-en-Provence, some of my friends and I, we would sit at cafes, and I'm sure you guys all have done this, the students there, just watching people and capturing the marks of the people walking through, and um, but also the musicians. There were always musicians performing around squares and restaurants, and um, so back in Portland, I uh, I was a symphony goer. I was a symphony member. I was allowed to go watch the practices, and um, and I did, and I fell in love with watching them. And I focused mostly on the cellist because they were very active with their instrument. And it reminded me of these drawings I did in Aix-en-Provence, but or Degas, even, like, I felt like I had a special place to watch. And but with thinking about it more and more, I kind of I a big takeaway from this body of work was looking at the cellist and seeing the cellist interact with its instrument, and how the two became one, and that was really important to me, and I knew I loved that. But I then decided, like, I want to have the same relationship with my painting. So I started to paint paintings my size, just where how long my arms are, and they were equal to me. And so now all of a sudden I was able to really engage in my own artwork as a whole full body, just the way that a cellist was performing with their instrument. I was engaging the same way with the cellist. So that's important, because all of my work after that, I basically always started with my size canvas so that I can interact with it. And so that's the cellist series. And these were early, gosh, it was in the 90s, I guess. Um, Another big pivotal point in my career was after I went to Mexico, and I wanted to, I didn't know what my takeaways were going to be. I just went, and I had never been to Mexico. But the marketplaces is where I spent my energy. I loved um, walking through them. They were so different than they are in Aix-en-Provence or France or Portland, Oregon. They were the the awnings were all different colors. All the fruits and vegetables were laid out very organically, not, in specific boxes or, and the chatter, and not speaking Spanish, I was just the chatter going on around me. And
Oh, Karen, we might have lost your sound. Let's see.
oh,
That's better. I don't
okay.
know what
Can you
happened there. You
hear me
cut out
now?
just, yes, you cut out there just for a second. I
Okay.
think you're
I'm
all
sure
good.
it's stable. Okay. Okay. So anyway, just moving through, I I went back to my canvases, and I thought about those times when I looked behind the bush in Aix-en-Provence after I had painted, and and I saw this whole other life that existed behind that bush. But here, when I started these paintings, I wanted it to be as if I'm in the middle of it and everything else is surrounding me, and I'm feeling the pink awning on me. I'm looking at the different colors of the vegetables, and I am hearing the chatter going all around me. And so I really focused on putting this energy in the heart of these canvases. And so these are some of my marketplace paintings, and let everything else kind of fall off. And I also turn the canvases upside down uh, as well. And um, so that was a big takeaway. And I approached these nature paintings the same way in Portland, Oregon, or it's all green. It's really green there, and it was really hard to figure out how I wanted to incorporate all these greens. And I thought of, I played the same way with this. I put the energies in different spaces, whether that be, um, more like a cathedral, like walking through tall green trees and having sunlight come through and hit you, or I felt like they, were hitting me. I can see them on my body when I walked through, and so I would put all of this energy together and create more like the centerpiece. And sometimes it was more the darks in the middle, other times it was the darks on the outside, but it became these sanctuary paintings that I approached somewhat similarly, the market paintings to this, where everything was encompassed around basically the emotion of being a part. I think a big difference was I was a participant in my painting, where before I was a viewer. I was reflecting on what I was looking at, and now I'm actually thinking about myself in the painting, and the colors around me. So these were kind of pivotal moving points in my career. And I kind of worked with that for a while, went through a few bodies of work. I also played with multiple canvases. Um, some of these other bodies of work, going to Hawaii and really kind of, again, and here I'm starting to become a little bit of a viewer, but also the memory of being underwater and seeing what's above water, and seeing the two in Hawaii, and how life kind of interacts in and out of uh, the 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 water. These are so I did these poetry kind of paintings that way, and this painting was. painted, this is also above and below, but this time my body was in the Mediterranean, my ears were in the Mediterranean, and I was going up and down, looking outside. I wasn't wearing goggles or anything. Um, but just kind of incorporating myself, moving in and out of this visual field I can see of buildings and hillsides in Provence, and this floating in and out of the Mediterranean. So, so I kind of approach my work thinking about things on that level, where how I'm associated with my subject, or what's interesting to me. And I also have a storyline of, like, it's not just one moment, but it's multiple moments. It becomes more narrative. So anyways, I painted this, oops, for a long time. And then, okay, so another pivotal point was the Beijing trees. Uh, After all of that, I showed you, I became a successful artist. I was able to do this full time, and um, I was fortunate enough to be written about and be invited to galleries, and did have shows. So, but as life goes on, life changes, and I kind of entered in probably quite a few years of difficult times. And so one time I went to Beijing. I'd never been, and I didn't know what I was going to come away with, but I came away with focusing on the trees, mostly because they spoke to me. Um, the roots, the how, you would see these roots, just fantastic roots, trying to find how to get in the ground, and then of course the tops, which I was there at the very beginning of um, spring, so a lot of the branches were just branches, but there was certainly some flowers on some of them, as well as some um, leafing out. But the thing that captured me, that I just couldn't believe, was these trees, these old trees. They they had the roots, and the insides, if they were old, there was nothing on the inside. It was like they were hollow, and sometimes they would put concrete in there and paint the concrete to make it look like a tree. But generally speaking, a lot of these trees were just hollow. And then there was like this energy that came out of the trees with new birth, new flowers. Um, and so it was, I thought about these trees, about foundation, regrowth, how they had to balance, finding the sun. If they lived for, hundreds of years, how they've changed. And so that's what my takeaway was. Plus, I was influenced by the scrolls and stuff, so I did focus on on that, just making these more balancing acts, and some rooted foundation, some life that exists, and yeah. Oh, and also these kind of storylines, these figurines. I thought of them as figurines, like these little personalities that live together nicely. Like all these little friends that had these little lives together, and they were all together. So I liked putting them together this way as well. Uh, so that was the Beijing trees, and which then I went, and that was also, it was a difficult time for me, health wise. So I was trying to I just took it all in, like focusing on the rebirth of these trees. So of the seasons of the trees, because the tree was old, but the flowers were new. Um, so I jumped right into another very difficult part of my life. And this probably was the most difficult work I had ever done. And now, after seeing these trees that were hollow and balancing, I went back to my body in the center and I did a lot of self-portraits. And I couldn't, there wasn't something out there that I related to, like the Beijing trees I related to. I kept searching for this thing in nature that made sense to me to focus on, and it never came. And I thought, well, I'm here. I'm gonna just do these self-portraits. And so I actually just started putting myself in the ground, like images of myself, my arms or whatever, just my head in the ground, my feet in the air. I just really turned everything upside down. Because I'm inspired by nature, I did, use nature as these color points, like this blue one. Definitely there's sky, there's earth, there's something going on in the middle. And other times I've just put the color of the body with other elements of nature added into it. But anyway, this was a way for me to let go and be a part again of my canvas, putting myself in there and having my own dialogue again. And these paintings surprisingly actually gave back to me. That wasn't something I was expecting. I learned so much about myself when I painted this body of work. So there's one of the paintings. These are a couple of the quintessential ones. And I should say that was also like, that was, I think, in like 2018. The trees were like 2015. And so now I'm just going right into another very difficult part of my life, which was during COVID. And I also had health issues. During COVID, I couldn't have anybody in my house because I was dealing with lots of surgeries and treatment plans. And so I was really depressed, but as I think many of us were during this time. But I focused on these flowers because I had my friends fortunate enough. They kept bringing me flowers. They would put them on my porch, and and food because I wasn't able to lift things, and I was going through my um, treatments of cancer and stuff like that. So I I always had these flowers show up on my porch, and every time flowers were dying in my bouquet and petals were on the ground, it was like everybody knew, like, oh, her flowers are dying. Let's be sure to give her some new flowers because they kept coming. And I just felt so lucky. And so I just appreciated my friends so much. But anyway, so these are my flowers that I did, which I, was, anyways, that was a whole, uh, probably 2 years worth of dealing with those flowers until now we're more contemporary or where I'm at now. Some of these paintings, this particular painting was a part of, went to Venice in 2024. And when I was invited to show the work in Venice, I had decided that maybe I should get a visa and stay a year here and just see how I liked being here. I'd gone through so much in the past and I thought maybe I just need a change. So I spent a year here and ultimately I found myself just going on these pathways. Um, I mean, all of these have their own little story, but basically the latest body of work Well, one, I just had a show that just came down here in Sisteron. And then I also just in May had a show in Washington, D.C. And so these bodies of work related, but the body of work that was in Washington, D.C., uh, I I developed after spending time here in France and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I found myself walking on a lot of paths, allowing myself to not know where I was going, but finding that there was still some comfort in there that I could just keep going and um, I would figure it out. And so these became pathways. I think I called the body of work. Um, yeah, I can't remember now. But anyway, so so now it's I feel like I've come back around to like painting the way I painted in Aix-en-Provence. This particular painting and these smaller ones were in the show here in Sisteron because after I decided I think I'm going to make the move to France. So I went through that process and now I'm here and I'm looking at things more differently and walking through um, these just the country roads here and embracing them, embracing the change that they bring every time I walked through the landscape. And I always think about, the walk isn't just, me sitting looking, it's me walking through and I think about all the colors that I pass and walk around. So so these are this particular one, I was kind of looking over these rocks and but uh but anyway, I feel like it's a full circle and I feel like I'm going back into the womb of like the Leo Marchutz school, the contemplation of the color and the combination of the colors and really working on that palette before I ever put paint on the canvas. Um, and these all have, specific kind of meanings or thought processes, but this is my latest body of work. So I hope that wasn't too long for you guys, and I'm happy to go into more depth or to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was so lovely to see all of your work like that. We can now open it up for questions or comments. And what I'll have you do, if you want to ask a question or say something, is just unmute yourself, first of all, and then maybe put your hand up like this so I can see you and sort of field questions that way. Um, any first questions or comments to get us started off the bat? Remember to unmute yourself. And I'll try. There's a lot of people in here, so I'll try to get you. Karen, I'll start off with a question. Um,
Okay.
you are like me, you split your time between Portland and Provence, which is the best of both worlds, I think.
Yeah.
But I wonder how you feel, how you relate to your work when you're making work in Portland versus when you're making work in Provence. Is there a whole different process that you go through? Are your studios different? Is your mindset different? How do you feel the pull between the two places?
It's very interesting. As an abstract painter living in Portland, um, I do more abstract painting in Portland. When I come here to Provence, I find myself just embracing the nature that's sitting right, here, and all those really positive memories of the school in Aix-en-Provence. So I. I find that I'm more abstract in Portland, more
Mm.
contemporary. Like I'm pushing the boundaries differently because I'm thinking about them more. Well, again, there's a dialogue of the subject, which is emotions generally, but and how that looks becomes more abstract, I think, in Portland than it does here. Here
Mhm.
it becomes softer.
Yeah. Thank you. That makes total sense to me. Questions, comments for Karen? You'll just have to unmute yourself
I
as a
have a
reminder.
question.
Go
Um,
for it.
okay. Hi, Karen. I'm Elsa. We met in Sisteron.
Oh, hi, Elsa. Nice to meet you again. Yes,
How are you?
I see you again. Yes, I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
Very good. Very good. So, I have a question looking at your past works. The first work you show us reminds me of Cézanne. Am I
Yeah.
right or am I wrong?
Oh, yes, of course. Cezanne was definitely a big influence.
Big
For
influence.
mhm.
And
uh,
in the Queen series, the first one you show us, it seems to me, it reminds me to be Richter, the
oh,
chairman that works on canvas and on pictures, on photos, and
uh-huh.
takes away the color. No, it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
from the video. Maybe when you see them in real, it's different. But in video, it reminds me to be Richter. But
well, I mean, I like that. I like.
no, no, I like that too.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you because your the color field, the influence is evident. So
Mhm.
looking for other influences. So that's
Yeah, I have had a lot of influences. I love all of the abstract expressionist that was all of that era was a big influence to me. Under my in my undergraduate school, I my professor was an abstract painter. He was somebody who you saw his work and you didn't have to have words to it. You just felt it. And I always wanted to be able to do that. And that comes out too with the abstract expressionist era. And Joan Mitchell is a huge influence. Gerhard Richter is also. Uh, I mean, some of the poetry pieces I loved Cy Twombly and uh, some of the figurative works. I looked to um, de Kooning, Willem de Kooning, and yeah, so they all were parts of my studies, my reading, my looking, yeah, I loved all of
and
that.
do you like or do you like Maurice Lewis?
Mose Lewis.
Morris.
Oh, Morris Lewis. Oh gosh, am I going to be
No,
embarrassed here?
no, no, don't worry, don't worry. It's Ignatius' favorite painter. That's why I'm asking you. It belongs to the color field, but it is less well known. So
I'm not sure if you've stopped talking. Okay, there was a pause there. Uh,
no,
did you ask another question because it paused for a moment? No.
no, no,
Okay.
no, I didn't. I just said that Maurice Lewis
Oui,
is the favorite painter of Ignazio.
oui, oui.
And I wanted to know if you knew that, if you knew
Yeah,
him, and if you liked him. But
I
it's
didn't.
less well known than the others.
Yeah, I'm sad to say, I guess I didn't know.
Don't worry, don't worry. You're not the only one who doesn't know. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Other questions? Oh, Julie, go ahead.
Hi, Karen. This is Julie from Portland, and
Oh,
I know
Julie.
you as a yoga student.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and to listen and see what you're doing. Um, I can tell how much your physicality enters into your painting when you say you use my size canvases and just the way you use your body when you talk and you talk about all of this walking. I wonder if you can say any more about how you use your body in your painting.
Um, well, a lot of it is um, memory. So when I think about my body and my painting, I, if I'm walking through like the marketplace or the pathway is just, I just like have to figure out where I'm going to park my car, and I'm just going to start down that pathway and I don't know where it's going to go. So, hiking, and sometimes, I come across a rock so big that I have to climb over or go under a big a tree that's fallen down, or I have to figure out how to get around these obstacles, which was a large part too of that whole this past body of work, were these obstacles that were in my way that I always figured out a way to get around them, whether it be climbing over them or going underneath them or going around them. And so I think also uh, a lot of them are really how my body feels when I'm in a space. So I pay attention to that, but I go back to my studio with the feeling or the imagination of like, oh God, that this rock, this energy, this thing I went around brought me something new to think about, and how do I incorporate that? And it's somehow all related to my body. I guess my body and my mind, I think, I don't think of them the same, but I think of them as maybe, I don't know. Anyways, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
gives some lovely insight. I think you're a yogi from deep within.
Yes. Yes. Well, yoga definitely helped me through a lot of those difficult times. So, yes, thank you for being, well, you're the owner of the yoga studio. So thank you for having the yoga studio available for us.
And now I'm going through my own cancer treatment, so I've thought
Uh,
of you as well when I
oh,
remember
yeah.
talking to you during COVID. So yeah, it's interesting how different times in our life we have different obstacles. Maybe they're rocks, maybe they're cancer, but we have to
Yeah.
find a way
Yeah.
around
Absolutely.
or over or through. Yeah,
Yes.
the paintings really do show me that. I love them.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Well, and good luck to you with your cancer.
Thank you.
I'll email you later.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Alan, did you have a question?
Yes. Karen, do you think you
Hi.
could put up one of those paintings where in the early period where you were talking about I'm inside the surface and I'm painting
Yeah.
the things around me? Uh,
Yes. Let's
because
see.
I find it really interesting from my perspective, because you mentioned Joni Mitchell,
Uh,
maybe the
Joan
one,
Mitchell. Yeah.
well, even, no, not that one. Keep going. Like maybe that one or that one, okay? Or that one's
Okay.
good. So
Or,
any one of those that you just put up. The
okay.
green, yeah, the
Okay.
next, the one where the light is on the inside. Okay. So you mentioned being influenced by Joni Mitchell and who were the other two? Richter
Well,
and
Richter, some of these reminded me more of Richter. Uh, yeah.
and then who was the other? What's the other one? Who does the
Uh,
circle? His name.
oh,
It
de
was,
By
Kooning.
Twombly.
well,
Psych-
Trombley, de Kooning,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Trombley,
Mitchell.
de Kooning, Mitchell, and Richter. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting is, I mean, I'm really into kind of the unity of the surface and the unity of the how you put this thing together. And I actually feel like your paintings are a lot more unified and have a lot more uh, depth than all four of those painters that you named in terms of the unity of the
Oh,
surface. Um, and I wanted to ask you about your process. These are oil paintings, is that right?
these are
Or
acrylic.
acrylic.
Yeah.
So how long, first of all, how long does it take you to do a painting like this? And as you go through that process, can you describe a little bit how you sort of bring up the painting, how you decide to put strokes on the painting? I mean, does this painting take a
Yeah.
month? Does it take a day? Does it take 10 hours? How
Well, no, everything takes more than 10 hours,
yeah.
but how long changes. At the beginning of my process, and I do work in bodies of work, so at the beginning, I'm experimenting and trying and not sure where I'm going. And so those take longer. And then when I find a groove, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm trying to paint. Oh, this makes sense to me. Oh, that's why I liked this. Then all of a sudden I have something, the story is starting to unfold. And because it's not like I start knowing what I'm going to paint or have the storyline. The story comes after because the paintings are giving it back to me. And
Mhm.
so with this process, I started with these nature paintings with sometimes oranges and blues underneath. And because I switched over to acrylic painting, I do a lot more layering than I did with oil painting. Oil painting, I didn't layer quite as much, but here I layered a lot more and put, just like when you're walking through the cathedral of trees and nature,
Oh,
you're walking through, your feet are in the ground, so I'm putting these colors in there in the background and everywhere around, and then I'm layering, I layered on this particular one, or these particular nature paintings, I did focus a lot on using the palette knife. I wanted edges. I didn't, it was, if I wanted more edges. I felt like it needed structure in there too. So I put more edges on these shapes of green. And I always allow the drips. I used to, make the drips almost, and the drips are always, I feel like they give the painting a sense of um, spontaneity. They're uncontrollable. They're there. I'm not putting one drip on and one drip on. I'm allowing my drips to go on there, and it just is there. And and then it's a matter of choosing, oh, where do I want to, maybe I want to get rid of some of that and add something here. And so it becomes another dialogue, which again is kind of an internal dialogue from my experience. And so a painting like this, I like to think about how many paintings I can do over a certain period of time. Like for 6 months, I might be able to do, 8 or 10 paintings or something like that. So, um, because sometimes they're shorter and sometimes um, take longer. These are my size paintings, so they're
sure.
large. Yeah.
I
Did that
mean,
answer?
there's a certain unity of surface in this painting that I find really much more powerful than, say, in a lot of Joni Mitchell abstract paintings. And I'm just
Mhm.
wondering if that's a conscious thing that you're working on when, for example, that vertical of that yellow that's up at the top of the painting, the vertical yellow, and how it
Yeah.
relates to the quality of the value of that in relation to, say, the yellows that are around the white, and the nature of
Yeah.
that vertical. We could talk about all the strokes, but there's a certain unity of surface there that we talked about in school a lot, even when you were just working directly from nature. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that's a conscious thing that you're trying to get at, or is it just happen, or do you have a feeling for what I'm talking about, or
Yeah, I do. You know, I think both.
uh,
Definitely, the way I paint, it's I well, these paintings, these are a little older, so the process was a little different, but a lot of times I wouldn't even have my eyes opened. I would just have my eyes closed because then I could really have the real connection from here to the canvas. But
Okay.
sometimes also well, the contemplation comes after I sit back and look at it, and then I'm like, okay, I need some more yellow there. This doesn't feel right. This has
Mhm.
to come more forward or back, and so the conversation happens when I'm looking at it. And then when I go to paint on it, I find it's very important for me to not take it literally, not say, okay, now I'm going to just put a nice yellow mark there. But
Sure.
I go back to exactly the way we did it in school. I put the colors on the palette, and I even hold the palette knife up and like, okay, yep, that's about the color I want there. And then I have the colors there, and then it's like, okay, I better be in the present state of mind to put these colors on the canvas, you know,
Mhm. And do you
from
mix a whole palette? Do you mix a whole palette, a
yes.
lot of different colors before you start, or is it sort of one
Yeah.
color at a time?
I mix a lot of colors before I start. Sometimes with these layerings, I would just mix a bunch of shades of blue or shades of green or, something. But
Yeah.
I always have to have the opposite there, as you taught us well. You always have to have some of that orange in there or something to make it more lively. And so yes, I still mix my colors. Because it's acrylic, I don't, I, I have a system where I can keep colors active for a couple of hours, but it's not like oil paint where you could just really let them sit there forever. So I do have to continuously remix and make colors during the process.
Anyway, there's a particular unity of surface in these paintings that I really find wonderful and wished all those four painters that you talked about actually wish that they had in their paintings. Sometimes they don't have it, and I find these paintings do have it. I find them very wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you.
In relation to that, in terms of a cohesive, because I know it's wonderful because you see that the painting's very spontaneous and it's more, you're trying to feel it. You're not just thinking, but now we have this painting, there's a certain logic to it that's really wonderful. Just in terms of the verticals and the horizontals and the fact that you move from the bottom, very cool blue at the bottom of the right painting, and then it moves up into these wonderful warmer violets and the horizontal stroke up at the top of the painting, the dark sort of accent,
Mm.
little square
Mhm.
top, and
Mhm.
how it moves across to the vertical of the top. It's really, really wonderful to
Mm.
move around the painting. There's a
Mm.
lot to it.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel very, very happy.
And plus, look at the little dot. Wow. The little dot of violet in the middle of the white there. And
This? No,
yes,
this right here?
yes, that right there.
Huh.
How it relates to
Yeah.
everything. Very nice.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Couldn't
Other
be anything.
questions? Sorry, Alan.
No, it couldn't be any other value or color. It's just the perfect value and color in that white
Mm.
space in relation to all of the painting. It's very wonderful. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yay, thank you. Hmm. That's in New York. No,
Lovely.
Where in a private collection or in a museum somewhere?
no private collection. She sent me some photos of it. I think I have it here. Well, let's see. Uh, okay, if I go, anyways, I don't know, but anyways, yeah, she bought these two paintings together. This one
Mhm.
and that one. And they
Mm,
really are beautiful together. And she has them in this kind of big open space, and it's beautiful. But it'll take me too long to find the image that she sent.
Lovely.
Hmm.
Other questions for Karen? Ken, go ahead.
Hi, Karen. Thanks so much for your talk. Absolutely love your paintings.
Thank you.
I feel like we're sister and brother from another mother or something like that. I have all the same affinities for you, Joan Mitchell, Cy Twombly, de Kooning. Love all those people. I'm particularly intrigued, and this is a little bit perhaps of a piggyback on Alan's question. I'm intrigued by your process, and you really have a wonderful clarity with your colors. I find that particularly, if you wouldn't mind putting up maybe one of the Beijing trees, the series or that you had. Yeah, fabulous.
Lovely.
When I look at these, I'm curious about your use of white and as a process. I don't, it surely doesn't seem like the white of the canvas because there's so many nice, beautiful, subtle tints to these whites. So do you allow your oil? I'm guessing these are oils. Is that true?
No, they're acrylic.
These are acrylics. Okay, because I was just curious on your drying time. I mostly paint in oils, and I was wondering if you let your paintings set up quite a bit and then work back into them with the white, the shades of white or the tints of white. Can you talk about that?
So yeah. So yeah, whites are very important part of the color balance in each of the paintings. Um, the creamy whites or the cooler whites or the warm whites. And so the white of the canvas that is showing through, you might be able to see some of it in some of the very bottom where there's just the drips. I'm thinking like here, like maybe that would be the color white of the canvas where this isn't. I painted over that and I painted over all of this. But um, you know, again, like with Alan, with the painting I was talking about earlier, I I knew that I wanted these Beijing trees to be more open because they well, that's the way I thought about these trees. And I like the sketchbook that I did. I realized the most important part to me was the balancing act that these trees had. And so, I started drawing just like these totem pole things to things that like really how do these trees survive and the balancing act, and somehow that balancing act works visually in a canvas as it does for these trees that are searching for the sun. And some of these colors, like this red here, that was really influenced by so many buildings were that color. The trees were not that color, but that influenced my process of painting these two paintings here. And so I knew I just started with these dark marks that kind of put this foundation into the painting. And then I softened them or chose like how to balance all of these colors to make to develop the balancing act that's what I was after. That's what I wanted to paint, these balancing figurines. And so once I get through that part of the process, and then the whites also, like when I'm doing the final parts of the canvas of, I mean, all of my canvases have multiple layers on them. So I'm now thinking about how I want the whites to be as well. A lot of times I put the white on top and I kind of use it as an eraser for the places that I don't want to be there anymore. Because I like the simplicity of these marks and I don't want, all these other marks. So I'll use the white, but the white of the color of the white becomes very important because it's a part of how that particular, the green sits next to the red. And a lot of times, you know, I think about all those opposite colors as well as um, uh, the relationship to the white to the color it's sitting next to, because it's not bright white. It's a shade of white. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was just looking at Joan Mitchell's painting Hemlock earlier today, and then you brought these up, and the whites in her paintings and the whites in yours, just absolutely fabulous usage of them. And I like that you're using the white as a sort of a, you know, not only a positive color, but as an editing tool as well. I find that very
Yeah.
intriguing. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Karen, do you bring these 5 paintings all up together, or do you paint them one by one?
Well, I painted them one by one, but these two here, with the red, I actually decided to make that one painting. So, if I go to my paintings here, I'll just see if I can get down to the trees and show you how that painting ended up. So that I decided it should just be one painting. Like I said, I like the marriage of these figurines because they're related. The trees are relating to one another, you know, living amongst one another as well as by themselves. So this really made sense to me. So I did that, and then I finished the painting as one painting versus two. So I probably, you know, altered some of the greens to make sure that they related a little more together. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We probably have time for one more last question. If anyone has one, feel free to unmute yourself or comment. Doesn't have to be a question. Well, if there aren't any last ones, that's perfect. We're just hitting the top of the hour. So I will just say a big thank you to Karen. We can give a little virtual round of applause. Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to give this lovely talk and to be our artist for the month of August. We are so appreciative. And thank you to all of you out there for coming and joining us today to hear about Karen's art and her process and all of that. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Rose.
Take
And
care.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.